And ladies and gentlemen, the idea that all the earth-shifting events that are taking place, and I'm going to say this, both terrestrial and cosmological, but the cosmological events are very much responsible for what happens on Earth, to the denial of those who basically believe in false science, to those who will not acknowledge the cataclysmic formation and the undertaking of the different planetary wars that have taken place. So I want to share with you just a little bit on this QCast the importance of Mars. Now it's interesting because the ancient Chinese knew Mars as a fire star. The Sumerians thought Enlil, Mars, was the cause of the Great Flood. Classical Greeks indicted Ares, Mars, as the bane of mortals. And the Romans saw Mars as a god of war. Why? Well, these are a lot of questions that have been kicked around for so many, I would say this, hundreds if not thousands of years. So in talking about what's going on with Mars, it becomes imperative that we get to the issues at hand. And the issues at hand, I made some notes, and I want you to know that these are not all inclusive, but it's enough to wet your whistle, okay? In the Old Testament, catastrophes are not only a repeating scenario, they're periodic. You know, whether you're dealing with the Sumerian clay tablets, whether you're dealing with the ancients' fascination with the stars, they knew something of the records of antiquity because they were always looking, if you will. They were the internet watchmen of their day. In their case, they would have been their inter-society watchmen of their day because they knew that they were periodic. Those who had observed and written down what had taken place in the heavens prior and even post the events that did take place reported them really accurately. It doesn't matter. Whatever society in the world that built advanced architecture, pyramids, etc., they all have their eyes on the skies, focusing on specific constellations, Pleiades, Mars. Jonathan Swift knew that Mars had two, if you will, moons. One of them is believed, Phobos is believed to be totally artificial. If it's artificial, then it was built by someone obviously way before us. And this is what is astonishing to me. When the catastrophes begin, they were preceded by earthquakes. Now you're going to love this. Cosmic lighting, thunderous cosmic noise, volcanism, and celestial flybys. We just had another asteroid that they didn't see coming, or if they did, they didn't tell us. And the idea that everything that man does affects his environment is just horse manure. You know, the fascinating thing to me is, listen to this. 4 times in Hebrew records, the night of March 20th through 21st involved an angel from heaven bringing fire, celestial noise, earthquakes, lightning, and sudden destruction. It was their Passover. And the old traditions of the different recorded, if you will, the different cuneiforms, whether the different parchment, whether they're the Dead Sea Scrolls, they have a lot to talk about this because, again, most people don't understand the similarity of Earth to Mars. And I believe that it can be proven, and I'm going to be putting out something later in book form that lines up with the late David Flynn's work, Cydonia, The Secret Chronicles of Mars. I'm the publisher of that. It was published originally in 2002. That I'm going to put all this stuff and tie the whole issues of Mars together. David was a premier thinker. In my opinion, the smartest man I've ever met. I've known a lot of smart people. I've known guys that are out there, so brilliant that they have to go to the kindergarten level to help me to understand everything. But let me share this. And this is something that I think that people will be surprised to find out. When you look at the spin rates of Mars and the Earth being so similar, the spin axis tilts of Mars and the Earth are so close. Okay, give you an idea. Mars is 23 degrees, 59 minutes, and the Earth is 23 degrees, 27 minutes. They are within 32 minutes of each other. They too are nearly identical within 2.3%. And this is what's really important. The Roche limit of nearby Mars was the specific agent causing the fragmentation of a former 10th planet. And this is basically termed Astra, A-S-T-R-A, that was blasted into asteroids. The two planets were on a collision course, with Astra overtaking the red planet. The timing was thousands of years ago, not millions. By the way, there are actual records from different societies around the world that Mars in about 1780 BC actually came so close to Earth that people on Earth could see volcano, the biggest volcano on Mars, called Olympus Mons, actually erupting. So what's important is that in dealing with the similarity between Mars and the Earth, something doesn't fit. In other words, you're talking about an elliptical orbit and Mars being knocked out of its circular orbit by a planet that is being fragmented due to Roche's limit. And Roche's limit basically states that two planetary bodies coming into proximity to each other, the greater gravitational field or density will cause the lesser gravitational field and lesser density to explode. Now, what was interesting, too, is that the Greeks were so fascinated by this, but most of the astronomers that are called gradualistic astronomers just claim everything's a coincidence. Somebody once said to me that a coincidence is nothing more than the lie that they encapsulate for the greatest amount of people to believe at the contemporary time that the lie is put forth to them. So basically, nothing that they say, in my opinion, is true. I'm sorry, but that's what when I talk about classic science. Now, in talking about the entire Earth-Mars similarity, actually, what is it, 97.2%? You then got to go into the idea of the Earth's rotation rate, which is 1,436 minutes as measured by fixed stars. The spin rate of Mars is 1,477 minutes. There is, again, a spin rate of only a difference of 2.8%. Now, what does this all have to do with us? Why is it critical? Because in the Antarctic, here we go back to the Antarctic, the scientists have stated, and you can look this up and do a search on your own, but they've stated that they found Martian meteorites in the Antarctic, and they are claiming that Lake Vostok, from the time that before it began to freeze, had 2,500 species of sea life and other strange anomalies. Well, we always hear about the sea life, but the strange anomalies. And since I last gave you the update on Antarctica, for the record, now the King of Norway is reported to have gone there. I don't think people get the fact that the aristocracy of the world, both in the West, obviously Europe, Asia, and West Europe and Eastern Europe, all the way to the Orient, they have people that claim that they are the dynastic inherited rulers of those who came from the stars. Egypt was a good example. Now, the work that L.A. Marzulli's been doing on the Paracas skulls, when you look at Egyptians who are in the kinghood, the priesthood, or the queenhood, they all commemorate the cone heads. I obviously know Saturday Night Live made that very, very prominent, but that was a sign to them of divinity. Now, everybody married everybody, including brothers married sisters, sisters married brothers, fathers sired children by their daughters, you name it. So the bloodlines are sort of hard to track, but in Europe especially, these people declare their, if you would, godhood, and therefore they're in a position to make decisions that affect everyone else's lives. The acceleration in the topic of Mars, concurrent with Antarctic. Now notice this, Mars did not come back into play in a big way. Oh, sure, we've had some, the Martian Morse code, which I have a lot to say about. The geoglyphs of Tiwanaku, which David Flynn was the first to draw people's attention to the fact that that was a language, that also it's almost like an electronic printed circuit, the Martian landscape and the coordinates on Earth of everything like the pyramid, the Sphinx, the different, if you will, pillars on Mars, and the pillars are on a round planet, not the pillars supposedly holding up a trapezoid. And it's funny, isn't it, that you can get all these pictures, even from Baumgartner, who took the balloon up into pretty close to the stratosphere, and then parachuted down out of it, and you're seeing his GoPro all the way up, and I guess he didn't hear that. He should have checked with the internet first to make sure it was circular, because he might have missed the edge of the world and just disappeared forever. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. The idea that all myths, legends, and oral traditions all center around one thing, and that one thing is there were catastrophic events, planets, stars affected the things on Earth. You know, Nibiru, Planet X, Gabriel's Fist, Lucifer's Hammer, all the different names, the 10th planet. I don't think it was the 10th planet because the 10th planet got blasted due to Roche's limit. But all of the different scenarios for Nibiru or Planet X, let's call it Planet X, and to me it should be called Planet Known, not Planet X as in X, you don't know what it is. But do you really think that those in power are going to tell you what's going to happen before it happens? Let's take a good example of this. Do you see kind of a beginning stage of denial? And I pray that Oroville, that the dam holds, the spillway holds. But notice this, that they sure waited a long time to give people a heads up. And now on the news today, it's claiming that they'll have a 15-minute notice. Go in an ultimate panic and see what you can remember when you know you've got 15 minutes either to die or to make it out alive with just a shirt on your back. Hopefully they have bug-out bags. But ask yourself this. What happens to some of the most fertile farmland in the entire West Coast that produces fruits, vegetables, nuts, all sorts of industry? They've got dairy industry there, obviously cheeses, milk, yogurt, all the stuff that comes from the Central Valley in California. Ask what happens should that dam collapse. And if you were a very sinister, wicked, evil, demonic entity, no, I'm not just talking about our Congress and those who fit that category, but what would you do if you wanted to get rid of people? You'd starve them to death, a.k.a. Fukushima. You'd initiate earthquakes, and for the record, you can initiate earthquakes and volcanoes. Former Secretary of Defense Cohen is on record as stating the same. Zbigniew Brzezinski, whose daughter is in the news nowadays, he's on record as stating the same. The weather modification, We Own the Weather 2025, the Air Force document. HAARP coming back online, in my opinion, never went offline, but for Bernard Eastland's patent, you can take this patent to the bank, 4686605. There are over 200 weather control patents. We're seeing that. And one of the things that especially geologists and hydrologists have always been concerned with, what happens when a extreme amount of water floods the faults? Does it act as a lubricant, therefore increasing the chance of earthquake? And some people claim, no, it has the opposite effect, that it lubricates, therefore the friction is stopped. I think the preponderance of evidence is in the first statement I made, that it can initiate earthquakes. We hear very little, quote, real science on the amount of volcanic ash going up into the upper atmosphere, the sulfur dioxide going into the water, and that produces sulfuric acid. People say, the Pacific Ocean is a big place. They don't understand radionuclides. They don't understand ocean currents, and they don't understand the amount of time it's been since that time. And I think we're coming up to that March 11/11 magnetic field or gravitational orbit, and cause such tremendous damage. The Noah's flood is one thing, but Jeremiah's flood, a lot of people have been asking me about that. I'm going to do a whole show on Jeremiah's flood. That was prior to the recreation and replenishing of the earth.